If you're about to learn filmmaking, for this, for YouTube, and you're right at the start, well, I've got some tips for you. One which is gonna save you a lot of headache on this journey, and I ain't even gonna save it to last, to keep you watching all the way through. It'll be the first one I mention. Hi, I'm Olivier. You can call me Ollie. I'm a photographer teaching myself filmmaking. I'm documenting the entire process, so we can learn together. Today I'm gonna break down how I went about creating my first cinematic-ish film, or better said, memory of my wife and I at the beach at dusk. If you haven't watched it, well, then you probably should. And I'll wait for you to watch it. So this is me waiting. So now that you've seen it, tip number one. To make the whole learning process easier on myself, I borrowed from a real master of filmmaking, Danny Gewirtz. I picked Danny because I love how he makes films and want to base my learning off of his videos. And it was important to me to pick something doable as well. And there are many seemingly doable videos from him and other filmmakers, but it's really deceptive how easy they are. Just because something looks simple doesn't mean that it's simple to actually execute on. I went with Danny Gewirtz's Blue. I'll link to it at the end. I love it. It really captures a note of how my wife and I are. We didn't have to be anyone else, and it just presents such a cool vibe. And at the same time, so many different angles and shots that I can use and figure out and try and understand, play with. So let's reverse engineer it. Time to get into pre-production and Milanote. I used to use it to plan out photo shoots. It was very easy to just transition and continue using it for film board. Let's get into this. Alright, so the first thing you're going to notice is this big red banner that I've got in there. When in doubt, keep it simpler. It's called the KISS rule, keep it simple, stupid, but I want to be a little bit kinder to myself, so we just keep it the KISS rule. Overcomplication has ruined too many a simple endeavor. It is something you will need to actively strive against throughout the whole project because everything is begging to make it more complicated. Overcomplication is the absolute enemy. Steven Pressfield will call it resistance. Now, the very next thing, before I put in any effort, we're specifically looking at gear and other requirements. The main idea here was to understand what it was that I was going to need to be able to shoot this effectively. What is my setup going to look like? So I needed to have a camera. I knew I was going to rig it up to put the monitor on there and the cage and everything. I was going to put on my lenses. All right, well, I needed lenses for it. I mean, it seems like self-explanatory stuff, but it's a box, it's a tick, it's a way forward. Mic decisions were needed to be made. Do I need to have a mic or not? Was I going to shoot on a tripod or not? Yes. Was I going to bring my aperture lights? No, I was not. Do I need a sandbag? No, I'm not. Okay, now I've got a basic idea of these are the things that I need to somehow keep under control to help me move forward. Now, next was to put together a list of tasks and decisions that I had to make. These, for me, needed to be addressed before I was going to do anything. Let's go over these tasks. I didn't really need to book talent. I asked my wife, she said yes, it was done. But if you need to book talent, then it's obviously good to get that way in advance and then, cement it down. I've had models cancel on me. It's not great. Let's look at briefing. It was really important that my wife was herself. She should do what she and I would do anyway at the beach. Authenticity was really important for me, irrespective of the fact that I lifted a lot of ideas from Danny on this entire project. Organize and offline the shot list. I will go into the shot list in grave detail in just a moment. Find location. The location is really important as well. You know what you're going to shoot, where you're going to shoot it. I was shooting at dusk. And the moment you're shooting at the point where the light is going to change so dramatically in a short period of time, you need to know where is the sun going to be, how long do I have, because you're not going to have a lot of time to make decisions on the spot. Best to make all those decisions before. Download 3 possible songs. I think I downloaded 6. On the way that we were driving to our location, we kept on playing all 6 songs. It was about an hour's drive. At one point, we realized, okay, this is the song that is fitting the mood that we were having right then and there in the car. And this is great because then I knew I had a song that was going to match the mood that we were in, and we did not need to match the mood of a song. It helped for authenticity's sake. Deciding on a mic. Now, this was also really important because, for me, I've got a few different mic options, and, do I want to go on camera? Do I want to put this one, the wireless mic, or do I want to put the Rode Pro on top of the camera and all that? It's good to make a decision. Which mic are you going to use? How many, if more? Yeah, get that out the way. Decide on frame rate. 50p all the way. 50p all the way. Frame rate has always been a bit of a nightmare for me. And in one sense, I was thinking, should I just go with 50 frames a second so that I will shoot everything at 50 frames a second? I've got one decision less to make, but then I will be able to slow it down if I wanted to. I ended up not going in that direction. I will speak more on this when we get into Shotlist. It was important for me to figure out what am I going to do with frame rate before we actually go and start shooting, because frame rate for me, it can mess things up and I want things to look as organic as possible. Lenses. So here again, I was like, okay, I've got a few different lens options. Which ones did I want to go with? I wanted to keep it simple, so I just went with the Sigma 24-70 and the Tamron 17 to 28 millimeter. So then I've got 17 millimeter to 70 millimeter all covered. Set up rig, charge the battery, always good. To shoot and retouch final images. The whole point of this is I am making as many decisions as I can, as makes sense, before the shoot, so that I don't have to worry about these things during the shoot. There will be other things to worry about. All right, now let's take a look. Inspiration. I kept my inspiration in there so that whenever I needed to, I could go back and be reminded of the feel that I got when I watched his movie. And this helped me always to recalibrate myself to this. Let me explain. I can't overstate how simple it is for me to know the feeling of a photographic shoot. It's really just second nature to visualize what I'm going to get from a still image, but it's kind of out the window for me with video. So this was really a good reminder. So here we go. First thing you can see, again, keep it simple, buddy. No matter what happens, I just have to add that reminder. Keep this as simple as possible. Number 2. So as you can see, I've got two different shot lists here. I've got Shotlist and Shotlist batched. I played Danny's movie, then at each different cut, I put a screenshot, then I had all those shots, drug it into Milanote, and then it put it down here in chronological order of the sequence of shots that Danny used for his edit. This helps me build my shot list too. I rearrange it into an order that makes sense for shooting. Remember I mentioned to you, I have about 30 to 40 minutes where the light is going to change, and it's going to change drastically. So what I definitely don't want to be doing is I don't want to be shooting according to his edit. I took a look at all the different scenes that I was going to shoot. I batched them together where I saw, okay, these are the same shots, but they're just cut. Okay, good. I now know what I've got to do in order. And then I've got other shots where I'm like, okay, well, I can put these two together because they are relatively close together in terms of where I was going to shoot it. One way or another, the order that I was going to shoot this in was not going to be the way I was going to edit. Seems obvious, Filmmaker 101. Now let's talk about the label. As a beginner filmmaker, this next bit helped me out tremendously. On shooting day, I want to make only the decisions I absolutely need to, or if I have to make ad hoc decisions, then those that would benefit the film, which I could not make before, did not make before for whatever reason. So what was really important for me was to add in these 5 key bits of information per frame. So I had consistency, and I didn't break that consistency unless I intended to. Again, so I don't have to think too much about these things, which can just really mess up all of our efforts. And we can break this label down into 5 parts. How long did I need to have the shot? As a minimum. Too little coverage is the worst situation ever. For this film, most of the shot that I needed were 10 seconds. There was never a point in time when I needed to have more or less. 10 seconds was going to be more than enough. But if you're doing a more complicated movie, then maybe you're making a little bit of a different decision where you know, okay, here I need to have 10 seconds. That's the minimum for me. Oh, and here I'm going to have about 2 minutes of this. Next thing, frame rate. 25p or 50p, or even in some cases, where do I have it? Oh, I never chose 100p. And to be honest, in some shots, I ended up choosing 100p. I'm on the PAL system, so 25 frames per second, 50 and 100. For all you folks who are not on PAL, you've got your 24, your 60, and your 125 frames per second. For me, this entire frames per second thing, it still messes me up today. So I am teaching myself to be super intentional. I'm visualizing that this is going to be a slow motion shot. So I'm going to change it from 25 frames per second to 50 frames per second. But that's a decision. If I can do as much of that as possible in pre-prod, like I said, I keep harping on about this, it makes my shooting day quite a lot easier. Then the next thing was tripod. You see here, handheld, tripod. Tripod versus handheld. There's 2 notes about tripod versus handheld. I feel like handheld footage is an art. If you can't do handheld properly, it will look crap. It will look super amateurish. It's the fast track to amateurish shooting. Getting good at handheld, that's one thing. Getting good at tripod is another. At the very least, you're eliminating shake. So I wanted to have a mixture of both. I really want to get good at tripod to help me really focus on composition. Speaking about composition, or specifically Shotlist, that's the next point, is you will see ECU, wide, CU. I'm a photographer, so I'm used to 24 millimeters or 35 millimeters or 50 millimeters or portrait. That's how I think of the shot. In movie terminology, they always talk about close-up, medium close-up, cowboy shot. In fact, I downloaded this shot sizes over here as a bit of a cheat from, where did I get it from? Studio Binder. I just want to get used to using film terminology. Again, one decision less on shooting day is put the different shot sizes for this. In some cases, a wide might actually be an ultra wide. In some cases, an extreme close-up actually was a close-up. But you're kind of getting there slowly. Being able to use the film lingo, it also helps me get into the film mindset. And finally, the other thing is verbs. You see, I've made a little note: car, looking around, interaction, and mumbling between talent. Talent is my wife and I. I don't think do we mumble? I don't know. Doesn't matter. All right. Handheld across frame mic, right? I also need to, I don't want to just, set up a shot and then press record, shoot, and that's it. Life is a verb. Filming what you want to see is a verb. What is the action that is happening that is within the frame? Again, one decision less. I keep harping on, but it's just, as a beginner filmmaker, the less decisions on shooting day, the better. Also, earlier on, I mentioned something about offlining the shot list, right? I downloaded the Milanote app, opened the board at home. Where we were going has terrible data connection. So then when I opened the app at home, it was cached, and I wasn't too worried about the fact that I was just not going to be able to access my shot list or all my information, all my pre-production, just because, there's no data. At the same time, I wasn't 100% sure if that was going to work, so I did end up screenshotting all the shot lists again into my camera roll. I did. What are you going to do? Yeah. And that was basically it. So, to summarize, pick a filmmaker you like, pick its simplest work you like, plagiarize to the point where you can get on with just learning skills, pre-production as much as possible, make the bulk of choices that you need to before filming, shoot, edit, publish, and repeat the whole damn thing multiple times. One more thing on editing. Edit heavy. Kill your darlings. There was one bit which, it was in Danny's film, it didn't work in mine, and I kept it in there till the day of publishing on YouTube. And I then ended up deleting the upload. Went back into the edit, took it out, and then the film, or my little memory, felt right. I kept on harping about making as many decisions as possible before, so that you're not then in the situation where you've got to make all these decisions during shooting day. At the same time, however, you shouldn't be too rigid about it. I didn't have any 100 frames per second planned in pre-production at all, but I ended up doing some 100 frames per second. There's one thing I wish that I did was I wish I didn't stick so much to all the shot list. One thing that ended up happening for me is I did not have enough footage. I wish that there was some more footage that I could have gotten. If I hadn't just focused only on that shot list and then just looked around as well and gotten in some more shots, I think that would have helped. So it's great to make as many decisions as possible before, but be open that you can also add in or change some or modify that. It's not such a rigid thing. You gotta find the right balance, but still, it's better, at least for me, more decisions done before, so less confusion during. So there's just really just one more thing to address. Do I feel like this is my movie? And to be honest, heck yeah, no question, absolutely. Just because I based so much of the timeline and the shoot on Danny's Blue, it did not mean that I was out of this creative process entirely. It did not mean that it was super easy on me. It was still super challenging for a first-time filmmaker like myself. I still had to put in the work. I still had to figure out the bulk of things myself. I still had to figure out a lot of decisions for myself. The point of using Danny's movie as a blueprint was to make this whole process of storyboarding, ideation, shooting, editing, pre-production, camera movement, and all this stuff just easier on myself. It's still me, though, that shot it. Plus, it was very important for me that my wife and I were who we are, and we really got a cool memory out of this. So heck yeah, it's my movie. Absolutely. Now, do I feel like it's my original film? That's a different question. No. It's Danny's vision. And I'm grateful that he put it on YouTube for, this old photographer to learn from. Learn from enough that maybe one day I can make a movie off the cuff or fully produced like him, or the other filmmakers that I absolutely love and idolize. And maybe, just maybe, someone else plagiarizes from me once, to learn from. That would be the ultimate compliment. That would mean I'm heading in the right direction. And to be honest, that's just fine with me. Don't forget to hit me up on Twitter, @Aliskura. That's it. I'm out. Peace, baby. You know what Ollie Skura actually means? Well, Ollie, it's clear. Skura, it means jester. No, it means trickster. It means the person who plays, you know, some jokes. And I guess I take life a little bit too seriously sometimes, and that's why I've got this this name, Ollie, at Ollie Skura, to remind myself not to take life so damn seriously all the time. Yeah, funny side note that. All right, I really am out now. Peace.